The summer of 1945 was a world suspended between hope and dread. Europe's war was over, but in the Pacific, Japan fought on relentlessly. Cities lay in ruins, millions were dead, and families everywhere longed for peace. Yet Japan's leaders refused to surrender, demanding their people fight to the last. The Allies faced a grim choice: a costly invasion or a new, untested weapon. In America, families waited anxiously for news, their joy at victory in Europe overshadowed by the Pacific War. Scientists, meanwhile, worked in secrecy on a weapon of unimaginable power: the atomic bomb. The world stood at a crossroads: continue with devastating conventional warfare, or unleash a force that could end the war instantly. The decision would not be made lightly. The atomic bomb promised a swift end, but at a moral cost that would haunt generations. Humanity was on the edge of a new era, one defined by nuclear power and fear. The days before August 1945 were the final moments of an old world. Soon, everything would change. The fate of millions rested on a single, unprecedented decision. The world waited, holding its breath. Would peace come through negotiation, invasion, or something far more terrible? The answer would shape the future. The atomic age was about to begin, and nothing would ever be the same. The Pacific War was a brutal, grinding conflict fought across islands and seas. Japanese soldiers bound by Bushido fought to the death, making every battle costly. The US adopted island hopping, capturing strategic islands to inch closer to Japan. Battles like Iwo Jima and Okinawa were nightmares, tens of thousands died. Kamikaze pilots crashed into American ships, showing Japan's resolve to resist at any cost. American leaders feared an invasion would mean hundreds of thousands of Allied deaths, and millions of Japanese. By summer 1945, Japan's cities burned nightly under B-29 firebombing raids. Tokyo's firebombing alone killed 100,000 in a single night. The Japanese Navy was destroyed, and a blockade starved the islands. Yet Japan's leaders refused to surrender, hoping for a miracle or a negotiated peace. The US faced a terrible dilemma: continue the slaughter, or find another way to end the war. The world watched as the conflict reached its breaking point. The cost in human life was staggering. The war's end seemed both inevitable and impossibly far away. The stage was set for a decision that would change history. The world braced for what would come next. The Pacific was about to witness a new kind of destruction. In secret, the United States raced to build the atomic bomb. The Manhattan Project began after scientists warned President Roosevelt that Nazi Germany might develop such a weapon. Over 130,000 people worked in hidden sites across the country, led by J. Robert Oppenheimer at Los Alamos. Most workers didn't know what they were building, only that it could end the war. Even Vice President Truman was kept in the dark until he became president. The scientists worked against the clock, fearing Germany would strike first. But after Germany's surrender, doubts grew. Should such a weapon be used at all? Some urged a demonstration, not an attack. On July 16, 1945, the first atomic bomb was tested in the New Mexico desert. The explosion was like nothing seen before: a blinding flash, a mushroom cloud, and a force equal to 20,000 tons of TNT. Oppenheimer quoted the Bhagavad Gita, "Now I am become death, the destroyer of worlds." The test was a success. The world had entered the nuclear age. The bomb was ready. The decision of how to use it loomed. President Truman, newly in office, faced the gravest decision of his life. He learned of the atomic bomb and its power only after Roosevelt's death. His advisors presented three options: continue bombing and blockade, invade Japan, or use the atomic bomb. Invasion promised massive casualties on both sides. A demonstration risked failure and might not sway Japan's leaders. The bomb, they argued, could end the war instantly. Truman weighed the cost in lives, the investment in the bomb, and the message it would send to the world, especially the Soviet Union. Ultimately, he chose to use the bomb, believing it would save American lives and force Japan's surrender. The targets were chosen. The world's most powerful weapon was about to be unleashed. The burden of this choice would haunt history. Truman's decision would end one war and start a new kind of fear. The order was given. The countdown began. August 6, 1945. Hiroshima awoke to a clear, ordinary morning. At 8:15 a.m., the Enola Gay appeared overhead. Few noticed the lone bomber. Then a single bomb, Little Boy, fell, detonating above the city. A blinding flash, hotter than the sun, erased everything in its path. The blast flattened buildings, ignited fires, and vaporized those closest to ground zero. Within seconds, Hiroshima became a landscape of ash and ruin. Survivors staggered through the devastation, burned and bewildered. Black rain, laced with radioactive ash, fell from the sky. Hospitals were destroyed, help was scarce. People suffered horrific burns, injuries, and a mysterious new sickness, radiation poisoning. Hair fell out, skin blistered, and many died days or weeks later. The city's infrastructure was gone. Chaos reigned. Families searched desperately for loved ones among the rubble. The scale of suffering was unimaginable. Tens of thousands died instantly. Many more would follow. Hiroshima had become the first city destroyed by atomic fire. The world was stunned. The true horror of the atomic age was revealed. And yet, the war was not over. After Hiroshima, Japan hesitated, its leaders divided, its people in shock. The US prepared a second bomb targeting Kokura, but clouds forced a change. On August 9, 1945, the Boxcar bomber dropped Fat Man over Nagasaki. The bomb exploded in the Urakami Valley, unleashing even greater force than Hiroshima. Factories, schools, and homes vanished in an instant. The city's cathedral, the largest in East Asia, was obliterated. Tens of thousands died instantly. Many more were injured or burned. Survivors described a wasteland of fire and ash. The hillsides were stripped bare, the city shrouded in smoke. For the second time in 3 days, the world saw the power of the atom. Japan's leaders faced the unthinkable, total destruction. The message was clear. Resistance meant annihilation. The world held its breath for Japan's response. The atomic age had arrived, twice over. The end of the war was at hand. The bombing of Nagasaki and the Soviet invasion of Manchuria shattered Japan's last hopes. The government was split. Some wanted peace. Others urged continued resistance. In a rare move, Emperor Hirohito intervened. He could not bear more suffering for his people. He chose surrender, accepting the Allied terms. On August 15, 1945, the Japanese people heard their emperor's voice for the first time. He announced the end of the war. Around the world, relief and celebration erupted. The deadliest conflict in history was over. But the atomic bombings had changed everything. The peace that followed was shadowed by nuclear fear. A new era had begun. The debate over the atomic bombings began immediately and continues today. Some argue the bombs were a necessary evil, ending the war and saving countless lives. They point to the fierce Japanese resistance and the horrors of a potential invasion. Others call the bombings unnecessary and immoral. Japan was already near defeat. Critics say the bombs targeted civilians and introduced a weapon of indiscriminate destruction. Some believe the real motive was to intimidate the Soviet Union and shape the post-war world. The bombings are seen by some as the first act of the Cold War. Was it a last resort or a war crime? The morality of Hiroshima and Nagasaki remains fiercely contested. The world still wrestles with the consequences. The debate is not just about history, it's about the future. The lessons of 1945 are as urgent as ever. The shadow of the mushroom cloud lingered. Hiroshima and Nagasaki left scars that endure to this day. Survivors, the Hibakusha, faced lifelong illness, trauma, and discrimination. The bombings ushered in the nuclear age and the Cold War. For decades, the world lived under the threat of nuclear annihilation. The doctrine of mutually assured destruction kept a fragile peace. Today, Hiroshima and Nagasaki are rebuilt, symbols of both tragedy and hope. Hiroshima's Peace Memorial Park stands as a reminder of the cost of war. Every August, the world remembers and prays for peace. The story of these cities is a warning and a call to action. The Hibakusha urge us to work for a world free of nuclear weapons. The legacy is dual immense suffering and the possibility of redemption. Remembering 1945 is not about blame, but about preventing future tragedy. The atomic age demands vigilance and compassion. The world must never forget. The hope is that such destruction will never happen again.